Yes, give me some air. Good afternoon, all. It's been a rough couple of days. I've been busy with early voting. Elections had to go along the way, special elections for the prospect to take over Mikey Sherrill's seat. As you all know, here in the state of New Jersey, Mikey Sherrill was a congresswoman, and since she's been elected to governor, there has been a special elections for prospects to take her seat. So now that that is out of the way, I want to get into some topics. So right now, I want to start off with Justin and Cerina Fairfax. There were some things that I did not want to leave out, so I'm going to read what I wrote down here because I think that there are some things that people are not paying attention to, being that this turned out to be a murder suicide situation. And I know how important domestic violence is, and I get that it doesn't seem as if domestic violence gets the type of attention that it deserves. But I question if this was a real domestic violence situation. So let me start off with saying, Justin, well, first of all, right, the title is What Really Happened to Justin Fairfax, right? Justin and Cerina Fairfax got married in 2006. In 2018, he got elected to lieutenant governor. In that, he made history as being only the second African American to be elected in the state of Virginia statewide. Within a year of his election, two women accused him of sexual assault. One woman accused him of raping her while they were both students at Duke University back in 2000. Another woman said that he forced her to perform oral sex at a hotel in 2004 during the DNC convention. In the interim, Justin served his 4-year term as lieutenant governor. He ran for election for governor of Virginia in 2021, but he lost the primary, hence putting an end to his chance of becoming governor for the state at that time. In all, Justin said that the DNC encounter was consensual, and he denied the sexual assault allegations that happened supposedly or allegedly in 2000 while he was at Duke University. He accused them of running a smear campaign against him and called for a full criminal investigation. He voluntarily submitted to two separate polygraph examinations in which he passed both tests on the first try. I don't know if you guys understand how hard it is to pass the polygraph. Now, you know, neuroscientists and psychotherapists can say that someone who is considered to be a psychopath may pass a polygraph test because they believe their own actions, right? So they can be wrong, but they have no remorse or no conscience. So they may pass the polygraph because they don't think that they're wrong, right? So you have some people who commit crimes, commit acts. They know that it's wrong, but in the face of people, they will deny and pretend that they were right in their actions. But when the time comes for a polygraph test, you cannot hide what goes on within your body and within your brain when you are asked with those questions. And that tends to show up in the polygraph. However, so Mr. Justin Fairfax passed both polygraph tests. So the question remains, did he really rape that person back at school, at college? And like he said, the second encounter was consensual. Now, let's keep in mind that he married his wife in 2006. So, all of this happened prior to him getting married. So, there is no evidence of him cheating on his wife. However, I want to focus on the fact that he called for a full on investigation and he accused these women of running a smear campaign against him. Now, I'll have you all know that once a person is stating that a smear campaign is being done against them, this is not just the person accusing them or accusing him of doing what they said he did. It is now other people getting involved to disrespect him and smear his name as well. A smear campaign tends to include other people that psychologically distress you and disrespect you during your life. People will begin to follow you. You're at the grocery store, you're on your job, you're walking in the park, whatever it is that you're doing in life. If there's someone who is a part of the crowd to disrespect you and distress you, you will realize that it will seem as if everywhere you go, there is someone that will disrespect you and then get other people on board to distress you in regards to whatever the allegations are, right? So it is imperative that we pay attention to that. I looked at or listened to what other content creators have been talking about and what the news reported, but I don't hear people focusing on the smear campaign and what a smear campaign is, right? It's equivalent to school bullying where it's mobbing and there's a bunch of students, whether they're in your class or other classrooms, that hear a rumor about you and everybody's harping on you. Just that adults do their things more sophisticated, children don't know how to be sophisticated just yet, many of them, right? So however, it's imperative that I give you that example so you can get a picture in your head how a smear campaign actually works against an individual. Some people have committed suicide because they were targets of smear campaigns, because they don't know how to overcome a smear campaign, because adults are relentless. Smear campaigns are meant to discredit you. It is meant to stress you out, cause you emotional and psychological harm. And oftentimes it is meant to lead you to having some sort of mental illness, whether you have a nervous breakdown or you just give up. Your will in life disintegrates and you give up on your dreams and give up on just you, give up on yourself. Okay. And that typically happens to many people. No one is exempt from having these types of emotions and pains. It is that I stress on the smear campaign that he said that he has experienced. He also said and requested a full on criminal investigation. No individual that is guilty is going to ask for a full out criminal investigation. Criminal investigations is meant to dig into everybody's background. So if he is guilty and he asked for a criminal investigation, he will be found to be guilty, right? He was not found to be guilty. So there were no charges pressed against him. And he actually was allowed, or let's not just say allowed, because there were no charges filed against him and he wasn't found to be guilty, he served his 4-year term as lieutenant governor in the state of Virginia. However, he has big goals and big plans to become governor and in his state. And I do believe that these allegations may have hurt his campaign and caused him to lose the primary. So, once you lose the primary, you're out of the race. It's whoever the next Democratic Party that was supported and who won in the primary is going to go on to compete against the Republican counterpart for position of governor. Now, of course, it is not the end of the world, right? Because every governor and lieutenant governor serves a 4-year term. And Mr. Fairfax could, in fact, have tried to run for governor again the following term. But I will have you all know that running any political race is extremely exhausting, right? You see these people on screen, on TV, they're traveling their state and they're debating and giving press conferences, and they look good and look seem to be energetic. But I will have you all know that it is extremely exhausting to run a race because you're tirelessly working, right? Your goal is to put yourself out there and let the people know what your campaign is about and what that takes a lot of energy, right? And so the only way your energy can will be restored in that type of environment is if you put forth the energy and you win. So now when you win, it's not in vain. You get to build momentum. You get to continue to build on top of your wins. However, with these allegations, which seems to have hurt his campaign, what are the odds that if he had waited out this 4-year term and tried to run for governor again, that he would win? When I look at the comments, many people were saying that they didn't vote for him. And as we know, we live in a world where people do not do their research. However, they make hard decisions based off of the little information that they got. Now, listen, I am guilty of not doing research as well for many things. We're ignorant to a lot of things in this world, right? But I don't make hard decisions off on anything that I don't do research on. So if I haven't researched a topic or anything, I haven't researched, but I'm not making decisions in that department. However, if I choose to make a decision, hard decision, or have an opinion on anything, I do my due diligence to ensure that I do research on the topic so that I am sure of what I'm speaking about, and I am sure that I am making the right decision because my decision will be informed based off of the information that I have discovered. Many people in this world don't do that. So I look at comments, they did not vote for him. So that means that you passed 2 polygraph tests, right? And so I want you all to also to pay attention to this. He made history in the state of New Jersey. He was the second African American person to be elected in political position in the state of New Jersey. I mean, I'm sorry, not New, that's my state, in the state of Virginia, statewide. That's history, right? And I did not do the research to find out when the first African American person was elected, but the fact that he was the second to run for office and be elected, he made history. Could it be that there are some people that did not want to see him climb up the chains? Because looking at this man's background, his family, his character, he could have been the second Black president. He has it in him to be the second Black president of the United States of America. Could it be that someone in the political arena was not ready to see another Black man become president of the United States? And in the climate that we are in now, under the Trump arena, I do believe that people certainly are ready to see someone else in a political seat, right? So, I behoove people to kind of think outside of the scope that they usually think in. And I know that that's a hard thing to ask. I will say this. I would like to see people become more curious. When you hear news, when things come out, ask questions, become more curious. You should be wanting to know why, right? To get further information on what's going on here behind the scenes. So now I want to move on to this, how we get to the murder suicide, right? His wife stood by his side because, again, there's no evidence that he cheated on her or had, any infidelities while they're married. All of these allegations were before he met his wife, right? She stood by his side. She's a dentist. She has her own practice, so she makes wealth as well as he does, right? They were the all out typical, American black family, right? Could it be that the wife has her pride in this matter? She stood by his side. Eventually, he started to isolate, right? That's what was said in the reports. He would isolate, and he had developed a drinking habit, not a drug habit, but a drinking habit, right? I truly believe that as a wife, and they have two children, that she was by his side, right? Tried to get him to get out of isolating, get out of. Could it be that the wife did a clear or an in-depth understanding of the smear campaign that he was going through? So now, let me add to this. For any of you who've been through a smear campaign, you know what I'm talking about. But when you are in a political arena and you're going through a smear campaign, smear campaigns are vicious. When you climb up the echelon, people are near psychopathic in this smear campaign and in their actions, right? Your family's lives can start to get threatened. Your life can begin to get threatened. We just don't know what he was going through with the smear campaign that will cause him to isolate and begin to drink. We don't know, right? Uh, I don't know because none of them are here. Right now, we're just speculating. But there's some things that I wanted to point out to provoke thought, because those of you who've been following me for years, you do know that I have a way of communicating to provoke thought. There is some information that we don't have we're not privy to, that needs to come into fold so that we can understand why certain actions or took place. So could it be that his pride was hurt and he can't get over the smear campaign? And this was his way of dealing with it. How do we know? Right? So, people, we don't know people until we know people. It is what it is. We can be informed as much as we want about personality types, about people, about ourselves, and all these things, but you don't know a person until you know a person. And sometimes you can have the perfect relationship until there's a death in the family. And we people change when they grieve. They're not the same person. We're not the same person or people after a death. So now, after grief, is this the same person that you married? Is this the same person that you married that you can now grow with, given that they've become a different person when life takes a different turn, right? And I say this to say, we don't know. And in that, because of certain whatever happened in a relationship, which can cause a person to change so much outside of the scope of what you know them to be, it may very well be healthy that they have just separated, right? Um, the wife eventually filed for divorce, separation. She didn't want what do you call it? Child support. She didn't ask for child support. She suggested or asked to buy him out of the house, as in to say she would give him half the money. He didn't have to pay child support. So I question what really happened behind closed doors. But her actions to not want child support and to buy his half out of the house and give him half tells me that she really loved him, but she thinks that she could not continue to be in this relationship. Did he become went down? Right? Again, we don't know how or who people become, when they become embarrassed, or when their pride or ego is hurt or bruised. Or in this case, he's dealing with more than hurt and bruise. He's actually dealing with assassination of his character, and the attempts were so severe that it caused him his election, right? And so in that, this also means that um, his anger. We don't know how people become when they become this enraged, and when they become to that level of enragement, are these people that you can actually live with, right? There leaves so much to consider regarding this situation that I don't think people were looking at, and I just see so much what seems to be gossip. But this is not a gossiping situation. I think that we are all adults to where we can get to where we should be able to look at a situation and pick up on different contexts that were stated around the situation, to have in-depth conversations as far as to what actually happened with Mr. Justin Fairfax, right? Now, I'm not saying that they should have stayed together, because again, we don't know what a person or how a person becomes after have had hard hits in life. We just don't know. But what we should be doing is having those conversations outside of gossip and regurgitation of information. We should be looking for in-depth discussions about what's really happening. Now, some of you may say, Arlene, why would I care about in-depth conversations about somebody else's life? I don't care about that. Okay, and it's fine. Why I say that is, let's look at the rate of domestic violence. Domestic violence is sky high. Look at the murder rate, right? In marriages and relationships, let's look at the murder rate, right? And I know society likes to look at the murder rate of men against women, but what about the rate of women against men? And it may not be that women murder men at the same rate, but women are abusive as well, right? So domestic violence is no joking matter, for both men and women are abused in relationships. And the most we can say in these relationships is that women are not protected enough, and that men will say that women are sneaky, and society laugh at men when they, complain that they are abused in their relationships. These kind of talking points that I see society say or regurgitate is quite childish, right? Because it doesn't allow for in-depth understanding. In-depth understanding will bring us to the next level of understanding why people respond the way they do to life and in situations, so that we can start to better protect ourselves. Again, prevention is better than cure. Some things can't be prevented, but now we can have the cure for it. Or how do we, when we get to the part of understanding that this relationship is not going to work, how do we get to that point of separation, to where the woman is not harming the man is not harming the woman, or they we get to that point, right? It goes back to understanding who both people are. Are people being truthful to themselves and to their partners, right? Sometimes people go into relationships with a selfish, not letting their partners know that they have these. Partner may pick up on some things later on in life, and it may not sit well with the partner. How do we call a truce so that they can be a healthy separation for both people? Because when we look at what's going on in society, it just seems like doom and gloom. And it seems like people are not moving or evolving beyond their basic beastful instincts. So, where people continue to behave the way that they do, how can people say that they're better than animals? Because there's no real rationale in their behavior, right? So, it's unfortunate that Mr. Justin Fairfax started to isolate. How long would he be in isolation? What made his wife want to divorce him? Now, as a woman, I don't think that I would want to divorce my husband because he's isolating and became an alcoholic. Like, my mentality tells me that maybe we can wait this out. Who knows how long? Because him isolating and becoming out an alcoholic, he was grieving, right? So now grief. Here's another thing: people think that grief only applies to death, when there's a death in the family. That's a different type of grief. But people can grieve their losing their jobs. People can grieve character assassination, right? So Mr. Fairfax, again, I don't know his upbringing, but let's say that Mr. Fairfax has had a nice upbringing where he has been revered, respected all his life, and that respect has been reciprocated. And he has never had experience with being disrespected, being lied on, and these types of things. On top of that, if he knows that he's a person that holds himself accountable and he goes out into the world with that level of accountability and respect for other human beings, it is automatic that that respect and honor is reciprocated. So he can have in his life experience where respect and honor is reciprocated, and it is not something that he has to protest and fight and debate for, right? So now here comes this smear campaign. And in that, as an adult, here comes all the people that once respect him, turn their back on him, disrespect him. There are people that are, hold on one second. There are people that are disrespecting him. So at age, people are now disrespecting him and treating him as if he's someone that never earned the respect and the position that he has. I think that that's really hard for the average person to deal with and come to grips with, right? And who was there to help him through that? Now, his wife is a dentist. She's not a therapist or a psychologist, right? Right. So, in order to have some kind of understanding on what Mr. Justin Fairfax was going through, you would have to have some kind of information or education on psychology to at least suggest that he at least sit with a therapist to help him through this ordeal. And again, I don't know how familiar you all are with smear campaigns, but smear campaigns can last for years. Smear campaigns, like I said earlier, has an intention to disintegrate you as a human being. So what do I mean by that? What I mean is, even in the face of truth, when truth has been presented, a smear campaign is still going to continue to go on because there are some people or someone who want to see you destroyed. So they will deliberately dismiss the truth that has been presented, right? So here's why I say that. Mr. Fairfax has asked for a full out criminal investigation. Mr. Fairfax volunteered himself to take two polygraph tests. Mr. Justin Fairfax denied allegations and no criminal charges has been filed against him because he has deemed to not be guilty of any of the charges. Yet and all, a smear campaign was going on. Why would a smear campaign continue to exist when he has been proven to be innocent? And we know that he's a black man, right? We know that this is the United States of America. If he was guilty, they would have found him guilty of something, right? He would not have, it would not be listed that he has passed the polygraph test, right? So, it seems as if this is why I say when society wants to ruin you, they will even forfeit the truth and facts of what they know about this country. It won't apply to you. And what I mean by that is we all know that this society, so we like to say America, don't want to see black people in high positions of power and don't really care to see black people be successful. With knowing that information, when a black person is guilty of something, they will be found guilty, especially black people who seem to be doing things on the righteous path. So I say that to say that if he was guilty, he would have been found guilty or be made to be guilty of something, but he wasn't. Yet and all, the people who participated in this smear campaign dismissed all of that to go on and continue to ruin his name and his reputation, right? And oftentimes, like I said again, when people are targets of smear campaigns, it is a very grueling, lonely, antagonizing experience. And if you are not, how can I say, if you have not battle tested, if you don't have, if you are someone that came from a household or a loving community, a loving, supportive community where you never had to do things on your own or handle hardships on your own, it will be extremely difficult for you to overcome a smear campaign. Ask me how I know. I was a target of a smear campaign, but my situation was different because I am also someone that had to handle hardships on my own, right? And the smear campaigns even began in my household, but in my household, I was the scapegoat. So everybody else was against me. It was me against them, which made me battle tested, which made me develop skills of grit, develop skills of sovereignty, develop skills of stoicism. So now when I became an adult and had to be faced with a smear campaign, I've had the same emotions and the same thought processes and things of that nature. However, how I handle it was different because I am used to handling hardships on my own. So I had to pull from my skills and pull from my grit. But it is still an antagonizing and grueling experience to go through, right? And the disrespect that people like to participate in. The other thing is this: once you are targeted to be someone that even your life don't matter, which means that the right person can want to step up and end your life and may not suffer the consequences of from that. When people see that the green light has been placed on your head to that degree, the way they disrespect you, you can't even begin to think of. The way people deal with you, you can't begin to think of, because in their mind, you can die any minute. Somebody can roll up on you, roll up at your house, and any minute you will be gone, and nobody is going to be held accountable. So the average person that has a lot of pent up frustrations, or the average person who is just wicked, who likes to bully other people, now you're dealing with a lot of people who have all of these sadistic thought processes and emotions that's coming to target and attack you because they won't be held accountable. And when you look at a smear campaign, all of these people who chime in to mob and attack a person, they're not held accountable. because there's somebody with some kind of power that gave the green light. And as long as this person that has the power gave the green light, they also cast a wide net to ensure that anything that happens to you is not going to be looked at as a crime, because this individual want to see you fail and they want to see you ruined. And people take pride in ruining other people, right? So in that also spreads out and spill over into his family. He has a son and a daughter with his wife. We don't know what that family was going through, right? So I see comments that says, well, he should have just left her. He wanted her for the money. She was the breadwinner. No, they both were the breadwinners in their household, right? And again, adults look at these serious issues and circumstances and reduce it to child's play. Excuse me, they were both the breadwinners in their family. It's just that his money was reliant on politics, right? Because politics was what he wanted to do, and that's what he went into. So when you come from politics, how do you come out of that realm and out of that arena and go into a different job or another job? Right? I don't know what his major was when he was in college, but I'm quite sure maybe it was political science or it had something to do with politics. How does Mr. Justin Fairfax come out of the political arena and go into another job? Right? So when he did not win the primary to become governor in 2021, he ended his 4-year lieutenant governor term in 2024. What that also meant is maybe he was told not to run for lieutenant governor yet again, because he could have ran for lieutenant governor again. But when you lose, you got to remember that people have their teams, right? So the person who won governor would already have the person that they would want to be their lieutenant governor. That's another thing. Governor already knows who their lieutenant governor would be. So that means that when his 4-year term was up and he ran for governor, whoever was running against him already had who's going to be their lieutenant governor, which means whoever wins the seat as governor, their lieutenant governor wins that seat already. So what was Justin Fairfax going to do for a living outside of that? Right? I think we play around too much with people's lives, and these comments, I'm not seeing compassion or empathy or any deep understanding in these comments when we're talking about human beings that actually lived real lives and went through real things, right? So who knows if his wife gotten afraid to even stay in his marriage with him, right? Because if he's isolating and becoming an alcoholic and dealing with a smear campaigns also includes that sometimes people roll up at your house. Strange cars will be pulling up at the house, parked outside, staring at the house. These types of things make people afraid. And so if their husband is isolating and drinking, but the wife is experiencing other things, he's not he's not coherent and paying attention to the family and paying attention to the fact that the wife is feeling like her life is threatened at this time, and anybody can roll up at the house, shoot up the house while the kids are in the house. You just never know. The other thing is this: when a smear campaign is happening, it's not just happening to you. So who knows what his wife was dealing with when she goes to the dentist? Who knows if she's being disrespected at her place of business? She's being disrespected when she goes into the community, go to pick up the kids from school. We just don't know what these people were dealing with, right? And when things get that muddy and that disgusting, it is unfortunate to say, but if both people don't have the grit to stay together and stick it through and pull themselves back up, the best other solution would be to get divorced. When I look at Cerina Fairfax, she's another individual that seems as if she comes from a very loving and supportive background. So this is the thing: when you come from a lot of love and support, you're unable to build battle skills, survival skill sets. You don't get to build those skill sets, right? You build skill sets of collaboration and corroboration, right? And so you build skill sets which keeps you in survival due to collaboration and corroboration. And those of us who were built, who come from a household or background where we're battle tested, we don't have real good collaboration and corroboration skills, right? I like in that department, and I understand that. However, in the other department, I'm not lacking. So I say this to say it was an unfortunate situation for the both of them because they are not battle tested. And so when you're not battle tested and you're raising your children up on love, respect, collaboration, and corroboration, your children are not battle tested, which means that this issue that he was dealing with has actually put a hurting on the entire family, not just him. It put a hurting on him, his wife, and the children, right? And so the children are not happy. Who knows what the children are dealing with at school, right? So I don't think that society was looking at that as well, as in to say that there's more than meets the eye here, and we should get in the habit of peeling back the layers of situations when we hear things that has happened in the world. This is an unfortunate situation because ultimately it led to him murdering his wife and committing suicide. And the children were in the home when he did it. You have gotten to the point of losing all hope when you do that. All hope was lost. I guess he felt like his life was the and again, I wouldn't feel or think like that. And I know that, hope is on the other side and promise is on the other side, right? But again, people who are not battle tested have the same fortitude, even think that hope is on the other side and that good life is still on the other side. And that goes for the both of them. Some people, when they're going through things, issues in life, when life gets a little hard, um, these, sometimes they panic, complain, they don't know what to do. Their whole day is ruined, their whole month is ruined. That's just some people. Some people do not know how to perform well under pressure, right? Because that is another survival skill or another skill set that comes with being battle tested. And again, when you come from backgrounds where you have a lot of love and support, you are not battle tested. So there are some skill sets that you do not learn. And it is unfortunate because, again, maybe the both of them just needed to have a conversation with someone that had a broader understanding of the skill sets that they may need for that the both of them can pull through. The other thing is this: when people are going through hardships like this, they become somebody else. And that is the outright truth. And it's a hard reality and hard pill to swallow that when life is going good, you and your partner seem to be the best people in the world, right? And you're the best people to each other. You're the best people to yourselves. You're the best people to your children. Some people, when they get hit hard in life, they become someone else. They it's like they become this person that you've never seen in your life, a different type of monster, a different type of beast, to the point that when they become that way, it is very clear that you cannot stay in this relationship anymore, right? These are things that we don't talk about. So I'll give you an example of what I mean. How many of you seen Why Did I Get Married, the movie Tyler Perry's Why Did I Get Married Part 2? Remember, Janet Jackson was their therapist, her character. But remember, she couldn't get over the fact that she had that accident. She forgot to buckle her son in the car seat. She got into a car accident and her son died. But Janet Jackson's character was also someone who was extremely on point. She was thorough. So she was the person that never missed. She left no stone unturned. She was thorough, and she couldn't get over the fact that she forgot to buckle her son's car seat, and that's what led to him losing his life. Now, why it is important for me to mention that character is because her ego kind of got in the way. She had to say to herself, me, the one that never miss, the one that leaves no stone unturned, the one that is the one that all the friends come to for information or insight that they may have overlooked. And I got the answers for everything, even in my own household. I never miss. Then, boom, one day, she forgot to buckle her son's car seat. And not only did she get into an accident, he died. The one day that you do miss ended in a tragedy where you lose your son. I'm telling you, it's hard to get over that because she didn't get the opportunity to miss or to make a mistake and it wasn't tragic and then she gets over it and learn, say, okay, better luck next time, or just make sure you double check. Now, she didn't get that opportunity. Her character didn't get that opportunity. Her character was met with with a hard reality. And I'm quite sure her character is thinking, why did this have to happen to me? The person that is always on point, the person that never miss. Why does it have to happen that the one day I forget to buckle my son's car seat that he had to lose his life? I remember how her character turned, what kind of person she turned into be. She couldn't stay in that, like her husband couldn't stay married to, and he just didn't realize it, right? And in the end, it caused him to lose his life when they were arguing and he frantically walked out of the house and got hit by the car or something like that. Remember? She became somebody else, right? So I say this to say, when things happen in life and it gets to the point where a person's psyche cannot accept this reality, they become somebody else. And in that, you cannot stay in a relationship with, you're no longer compatible, right? And I don't think it's safe to say that they were never compatible. I don't think it's safe to say that. I truly believe that you don't know people until you know people. And life has to happen in order for you to know people. I truly believe that. We become different. Now there are some of us, right? Some people can go through that kind of hardship, get hit hard like that, and still balance back out. They're not going to be the same person as they was before this experience. However, they've learned to overcome and balance themselves back out and get back to some kind of normalcy and normal living and living a good and happy life, right? Some people are can do that. What about the people who don't? And again, I don't think that we have these kind of conversations enough to know that for some people, they don't bounce back because their ego and pride, and not just ego and pride, it's a matter of the statistics of themselves. When we look at history, we're looking at history of history. But each and every one of us, we have, like I have my own personal history, right? Every one of us have our own personal history, and we have facts and statistics and truth and all these things about ourselves. So there's something that that you're excellent at. You've been excellent at doing this particular thing all your life. That if you're going to miss on other things, the one thing area you're not going to miss at is this one thing where you've been excellent all your life. You can put your $50,000 on it that you will never miss in this area. Never miss. And here it comes. Life hits you with, you miss in the very same area that you have the history of yourself, you never miss. How do you handle that? How do you handle yourself? How do you handle that? How do you go back and look society in the face? Stand tall with your head up. I don't want to cry. Give me a minute. This is real life we're talking about here, right? And how do you face yourself? Because first you have to face yourself before you face society. And I think what must Mr. Justin Fairfax, he couldn't face himself because again, who knows? Being politically correct has probably been the area where he never missed in life. You know, um, of course, we're going to have many areas in life where we don't miss, right? Of course. But now we want to talk about the area in his life where it brings him his income, it brings him notoriety, it brings him the leadership and the respect. Being politically correct is probably an area where he doesn't miss. And probably all his life, ever since childhood, he has probably had a politically correct way about him or a diplomatic way about him that everybody knew him for, right? And so it's guaranteed that he would get into politics because diplomacy is a part of who he is. So he gets into politics, and I'm quite sure it was his dream. And then he gets hit with these allegations. Now, with the young lady that said that he raped her in college and he took the polygraph test, let's dive into that. We have had experiences, young girls have had experiences where sometimes, you you may have wanted to be sexually involved with the guy, but probably not at the moment. Or maybe you're just thinking about it, toying around with the idea. And how many, girls or young women have had boys force themselves on them, right? And that's a gray area where you could say it was like date rape or, date rape air, the date rape, bracket is kind of delicate because sometimes the girls or the young woman may have been thinking about being sexually involved with the guy, maybe just not at the moment, right? And so, and maybe he picked up on it. And of course, that was what his intentions were. So something happened, and in his mind, it's not rape. In her mind, if he did not force himself, she probably would not have been sexually involved with him, right? Now, is this something to consider full and all out rape? You know what I mean? Is it something to consider full and all out rape? Like a stranger bust you in your head and raped you is different from somebody that you were contemplating having sexual encounter with, but you're playing around with the idea. You're not doing it. You have the freedom to not do it, and you don't want to do it. And he just feel like I'm going to speed up the process. Yes, it's wrong. It's wrong, and I'm not saying it's not wrong. What I'm saying is this something to say that you were raped, right? Because here's why I'm saying this. And then the other woman that said that he forced her to have oral sex at the DNC. I kind of, when it comes to oral sex, and you might say that I'm crazy, but I have teeth in my mouth. You cannot force me to do something. I will bite you. If I tell you no, and you're trying to stick your thing in my mouth, and I have teeth in my mouth, you'll get the message. This is not, you're going to get the message that when I told you no, I meant no, because I'm going to bite you. So I don't know about, because it was said that he forced her to do oral sex. Do you think that that's something that can be done? And then this is not somebody that's a drug kingpin or some kind of drug lord or some kind of criminal that if you did something like that to him, he would take your life or punch you in your face and break a nose or break a rib or something like that. It's not that kind of person. So is this something that actually happened? Right. This hence why he passed the polygraph test, both polygraph tests on the first time taking it. Hence why he asked for a full out criminal investigation, right? And so these are even things that I don't think people get into. I always say the complexity and nuances to life, complexity and nuances to a story that you hear. But when we hear rape as women, or when we hear things where it seems like a man took advantage of a woman, a woman, it kind of pulls on women's emotional strings. And I don't think people are able to actually have a rational thought about what they heard. I don't see where they're able to have a rational thought or a processing of the information that they heard. It's like they hear the information and they go from here straight on to he's guilty of sexually violating this person. The other thing is this: could it be that these women were paid to do that, to say that? Right? People are moved by a dollar that they will literally participate in ruining your life. So now that all of this has happened, he commits suicide and murdered his wife. I would like to see what both of these women would have to say. You know, I would imagine that they will not be able to live this down as well. Right? Because you have a lot of people in this world that are envious of other people's growths and movements. And if they know you from back in the day, they want to place you as being a thing and doing a thing just to see you go down, right? And many times, a person is able to bounce back. But in this case, Mr. Fairfax and his wife was not able to bounce back from this. And it leaves both people dead with children that have to probably be raised by grandparents and go on without their parents, but their children are going to need therapy because both kids were in the house when he took the mother's life and took his life. This is why I talk about bullying and smear campaigns. People think it's a joke. They talk around it. They don't take it serious. They don't care to dive in. But smear campaigns, like I said again, it is a psychological war tactic, psychological and emotional war tactic. It is made to disintegrate your mental capabilities, disintegrate the respect and honor that you have earned from your hard work. It is made to do all of that. It is made to make people distrust you as a person. And why smear campaigns happen? It usually happens to people that has a lot of social proof. And a person that has social proof is a person that has notoriety, where they're well known by a lot of people and well respected. And so a person who is well respected, you can't just target them to bring them down. You have to create a smear campaign, create a false rumor, create a lie, and make it believable so that people begin to distrust you and see you as not the person that they once thought you were. So it is premeditated and it is precisely orchestrated to do just that. Now, some of you will say, "Well, what? How would rumors and words psychologically damage you?" It psychologically damages you because campaigns are covert. You don't ever hear the rumors. You don't hear people talking about you. What you see is people outwardly disrespecting you, though, or they may be passive aggressively disrespecting you, and you don't know why you're getting hit with this kind of treatment. Then when you hear something and you go to correct the rumor, it becomes the Darvo. They you had to say, and try to create arguments or some type of tensions to get you riled up and out of character. And in that, there's further disrespect if you try to speak up for yourself or correct the narrative. That actually interferes with your psyche, right? When you are in your community and doing whatever it is that you have to do, and you're being disrespected by people that don't even work with you, people that you don't have close ties with, but you may see them on the regular, and they're treating you the same way as the person on your job or the person that's actually creating the rumor. You begin to think, how many people is in on this? Because it seems like everywhere you go, you're getting hit with, one second. So you're getting hit with people disrespecting you and not treating you with the respect and honor that you've earned, even in communities and in other places that is far away from your job, right? Again, it seems like everywhere you go, you cannot escape disrespect. And the reason for that is that people know your name. So your name travels, it rings bells. So when people campaign is going to go, so and so, Mr. Justin Fairfax. If any of you work around him, you live in the area, you see him at the grocery store, wherever, this person is to be treated like this, that, and the third. This is the rumor that's being spread, that's being told on this person. Whenever you see this person, do whatever you feel like it. Treat this person however you feel like treating them. Disrespect them. Give them no honor. Do not listen to them when they attempt to correct a rumor. Do not give them a listening ear or any compassion when they speak. Automatically have a rebuttal that has nothing to do with what they're saying, right? I'm just giving an example. And what's going to happen from them is people are going to reach out to other people that they know. If they don't live in his area, if they're not where the kids go to school, listen, hey, are you in the area of so and so? This has been what's been relayed to me. Boom, make sure you do that. So in that, everywhere he and his family go, they're being met with great levels of disrespect and dishonor. And then you'll have other people that if they don't verbally do it or energetically do it, they're looking at you. They know because of the way they're looking at you. So in that, they are not on. You're not going to get support from them. So it's also made to isolate you. So now you're isolated, and you have no support, and you have people within your radius and circumference of where you live life, whether it's the mall, right? Because if you live in an area, you're going to go to the mall and every place else in the area in which you live, right? Now, the only way you may escape that is if you tend to go shopping and take your children out of that school and go to school 2 towns over, and now that also puts you into, because you have more work to do. You have to drive further, right? So it's just something to think about, that I think that society does not give enough credence to. Analytical thinking is extremely important. Critical thinking is important, and just seeing the complexity and nuances to things are important. I leave you all with that, and of course, when you listen to this, let me know what your thoughts are. But in this case, I don't see Mr. Justin Fairfax in the same way as other situations of domestic violence. I truly believe that Mr. Fairfax had lost all hope and zeal for life. And the fact of going through this divorce made him lose all hope, to just say, maybe I'll take myself out of here and take the wife out of here. you know, you know, the wife probably couldn't deal with the disrespect. You know, all people are people, right? And we shouldn't expect people to be able to deal with things just because we want them to. The wife, like I said again, may not have been the type of person that can deal with that. You know, many people have this notion that when they come from a lot of support, love, and respect, and they themselves move on to the into the world with the same love, light, and respect and honor, they don't have it in their mind that one day they can be just possibly be disrespected and dishonored. And if that day ever come, how will they handle that? I'm quite sure they never had those conversations, so they don't have the skill sets to deal with that. And for some people, shame will kill them. Some people allow shame to rule them. We don't know if this is the kind of couple that allowed shame to rule them. We just don't know, right? We just don't know. This is why I'm a firm believer that I don't play around with people's lives. You know, it's unfortunate. But Mr. Fairfax is not who the majority of people think that he is. Peace.